business systems for growth, how to build a high-performance business that runs without you. Welcome to Biz Bites for Thought Leaders, the podcast where we deliver actionable insights to help you grow your business. We discover little bits of brilliance from guests, including today's Barry Cryan, who specializes in helping business owners implement systems that create high-performance businesses. Now, lots of questions that you've got to answer. Well, lots of questions that you want to ask that I'm going to get answered, I can guarantee for you, because we're going to learn all about businesses that struggle and how to make them perform at a high performance level. We're going to match that up with ideas around athletes and things that you can understand. And the fact of the matter is there are some really great insights coming out of this episode that are going to make you understand how you can perform at a high level more consistently and how you can implement systems that can ensure that you do that and find that work-life balance. Yes, that controversial subject, work-life balance. We're going to discuss all that, a whole lot more. Let's get into this episode of Biz Bites for Thought Leaders. Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Biz Bites for Thought Leaders, and we're traveling all around the world this time around. We're going across to Ireland, and welcome Barry Cryan to the program. Thank you so much for being a part of it.
No, thanks a million, Anthony. Great to be here.
Now, we're going to cover a lot of territory today because I've got some insights into what sort of things you do and what you cover, and there's a lot for people to listen into. But let's just start off by allowing you to introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, so look at Anthony, I'm a high performance productivity coach for small business owners. So generally what I'm doing is put systems and structures in place for them so they can get the most out of themselves and therefore get the most out of their business.
And there's a lot to unpack when it comes to that sort of area. And I'm going to start at the very beginning of that because you talk about high performance. And we mostly refer to high performance, I guess, in terms of athletes or machinery. Is high performance achievable in business in the first place, and what actually defines high performance?
Yeah, look, absolutely. First of all, absolutely it is. It's like, we can operate at different levels. It could be in sport, it could be, in a personal life, it could be in business as well. And high performance really is maximizing what you can do with your potential. So some people are operating at a 2.0 some days, they might be operating at a 8.0 other days. High performance really is getting as close to that bar, as close to that 10.0 version of yourself as you can. And that's where my goal is. Again, I talked about systems there and structures. It's like, without those, you can never really consistently achieve your maximum. And that's the same in our personal lives, or the athlete that's training for the Olympics. They have to follow a process, they have to follow a system, because when you do, you get predictable outcomes. And that's literally what we talk about is, if you have predictable process, predictable systems, you're going to get predictable outcomes. And ultimately, if you can get the most out of yourself, then you're going to get the most out of whatever it is you're doing, be it sport or be it business as well. So it's absolutely 100% achievable. Without systems and structures, it's up to the lap of the gods, really, whether you get there or how much you get out of yourself. Well, when you've systems in place, you can create those predictable outcomes and ultimately get as close to that 10.0 version of yourself as possible.
So, before we delve into systems and perhaps some of your background to get there, let me just ask you this question, because you've drawn the parallel to athletes, for example, training for the Olympics. If you're running the 100 meters or a marathon or whatever sport it is that you're doing, if you're not hitting that ideal, your best of time every single time you go out there, that just isn't really possible. And you see that, in football teams as well. Commonly, you're building up to the end of season, to a grand final series. It's a matter of building up to that point. So when you talk about high performance and the expectations of business, I mean, you can't be going in, I imagine, and expecting that you're going to be able to perform at that 10 out of 10 level on an everyday basis, because you're going to have some build up and some fluctuations.
Yeah, so it's like the way I look at it is number one, what are you going after? So if the Olympics, it's a certain time or be a certain place in life or in business, it's certain goals. So what we do is we start with the end in mind and look, okay, what is your goal here? What are we aiming for? And then it's reverse engineering back from that point then to say, okay, well, what is it that I need to do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to get there? And then yes, it's that 10.0 of where you're at. So where you're at now versus where you're going to be at 6 months or 6 years is going to be completely different. So operating at that optimal level of where you're at right now, so you can ultimately get there far quicker, and you're building in that consistency. Because if you think about it, you head out the road and you don't have a destination in mind, well, you're going to end up anywhere. So it's having that end point and reverse engineering back from that to see, well, okay, what do you think need to look like on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis in order for me to achieve that end outcome? And it's building structures around yourself in order for you to be at that best version of yourself as consistently as possible. And yes, that's going to change over time. That I think Matthew McConaughey, I was listening to him lately, and he was talking about, somebody asked him, who's your hero in 10 years' time? And he said, look, I'll come back to you on it. And he met the guy a couple of months later anyways, and he said, look, who's your hero in 10 years' time? He said, my hero in 10 years' time, it's me. And he said, like, I am my hero in 10 years' time, that future version of me. Okay. So, and that's what it is. It's like the person that you meet in 5 or 10 years' time, that version of you is going to be different because you're going to evolve. But it's being that best version of ourselves now means we're going to be a far better version of ourselves in 10 years' time. So we're being the 10.0 version of where we are now. And again, that's going to change in a year, 5 years, 10 years. But it's consistently being that version of ourselves of what we're possible, of what's possible and what we're capable of right now.
Now, I'm just going to break for just a second there. I'm getting a little bit of dropouts there, but I'll keep pushing on just so you know that if I pause for a moment or two, it's just there seems to be a little bit of internet lag, but we'll be good.
100%.
So why don't you talk to me a little bit about your background as well? Because I think before we can sort of understand how you can add the value here in this is let's understand where you've come from to get you to that point where you can actually give people this advice. So tell me where it all began for you. What was the career journey that you've been on?
So basically, my own background, I was a safety engineer. I worked across the pharmaceutical industry here in Ireland as a safety engineer, and that's literally my own background. And never I was always just focused and blinkered on my own career and what I was doing. And things changed for me. I remember I just woke up one morning and I felt like I almost had to do symptoms, aches and pains, spiraled into worsening type symptoms, brain fog, short-term memory loss, real chronic fatigue. And over a period of weeks and months, it just started getting worse and worse and worse. And I couldn't really find any answers of what was happening to me. I couldn't find, any solutions because doctors couldn't find out what was wrong with me. And I was not performing at all. I was struggling to get a day's work done. I used to have to, lock myself in a room for maybe 15, 20 minutes, trying to rest my eyes so I could recharge myself to go again for the next maybe 90 minutes or 2 hours. That's the only way I could actually get through my days. I go home that evening, fall into bed, rinse and repeat the next day. I was probably getting about 1 day's work done really in every 5. So I was, really not performing for them. I was like, well, number one, I'm not doing my job effectively. Number two, I, going to struggling to find answers and solutions here to what's actually wrong with me, and actually went on for over 2.5 years. And I was like, I have to find a better way to get more out of myself, with my reduced capacity. So I was looking out and I was like, okay, who out there is doing, what I want to do at a much higher level? And I was like, I looked out in industry and looked at the likes of Richard Branson and, the likes of these guys that have, Branson has over 500 companies, and how does he operate in his days that allows him to do that and get so much more out of the time that he's putting in? So that's where I started going down the whole rabbit hole of high performance productivity, and to get an understanding of, well, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. What are people doing that may help me? So I started battle testing some of their strategy, going down the whole rabbit hole of workshops and books and seminars and YouTube, and literally taking strategies, testing it, implementing it, scared what didn't work, taking what did work. And eventually I started to see some commonalities between how the best in business do this. I started applying them to my days. And eventually I got to a point where I was getting so much more out of the time that I was putting in. I was actually getting about 5 days work done in every one at the end, and that while I was still sick and looking for answers and solutions. So I was at a completely different level of performance versus where I was. And I didn't think anything of it. I just went about my own work. I was still knocking on doors, looking for answer solutions. Anyways, 2.5 years went by, and eventually I got to the point where I was like, really, I was kind of seriously worried, because it was getting worse and worse and worse. Like, I had no short-term memory whatsoever. And I came across a local newspaper here, and there was a woman in the paper talking about how she had similar type symptoms to myself. So just through a kind of series of coincidences, I got in contact with her. She was actually getting treated for this autoimmune condition that she had at the time. She got me in there with her consultant. I got tested, and sure enough, I turned out that I had the same autoimmune condition as her. So I ended up, because there isn't much specialist knowledge in Ireland of it, I ended up in the Czech Republic for a month, basically in a room by myself. And it gave me a lot of time to kind of pause and think about my life, And it was at that point then where I was like, well, I have tools and systems here. Like, and I looked around thinking about the office back at home, and I was like, well, this person is operating off sticky notes, and this person, has a bit of a list, and this person has no system whatsoever. And I was like, well, there is a better way. Maybe people don't realize there's a better way. I didn't until I had to, no choice but to go down this rabbit hole. So I started documenting things a bit more formally over there, started helping out a few people when I came back, just friends and family, stuff like that. And then that kind of evolved then over COVID, where I started like seeing them get results, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I should get this stuff out to a wider audience, start putting out free stuff online, doing free masterclasses. And that evolved over time then into the business coaching program that I have now. So it was just never started out. It all was created from my own need. I just evolved from that into something that now I know helps people, and that's what I do.
It's a fascinating journey, and it's one that I think that's the interesting thing about someone such as yourself, is that when you've experienced it and you've ridden through that and delivering that, it's so different to what is traditionally the method of coaches, which is, look, I've learned how to be a coach and I'm going to tell you stuff. And there's a lot of coaches out there that perhaps fall into that category. And so when you've lived and breathed it, it's a different beast.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I've one person that came to me before, and they were like, she showed me your coaching certificates and all this sort of stuff. And you can have certificates coming out coming out the door, but it's really, it's what you do. Does it work? And are people getting results from it? That's the core thing. And often case when it's created from your own need, well, that you're damn sure that works, because you have that practical hands-on experience of it. Actually, you need this. You implement it yourself and seeing it work, as opposed to here's theory, go off now and try it for yourself.
I mean, tell me, how much is adapting and changing? Because there's one thing when you build something around what suits you, and everyone has their own individual quirks and backgrounds and feelings and all the rest of it that makes us human. And so with all the best of intentions, what works for you may not work for me. So how do you find that balance, and how much have you had to tweak things over a period of time?
So, like, I suppose first of all, it's like where I started and evolved and came from. I had really great opportunity to actually learn what helped other people then, because of the free stuff I was putting out. I was able to adapt and change and tweak things based on feedback, based on how I see people implementing, based on see where I could actually improve on this and make things better. But at the it's all based around one core framework. I call it my FEST productivity formula, and the framework is the same framework for everybody, but it's the inputs into that framework that gets the framework to work. Okay, so the first thing we do is it's what I call our time efficiency accelerator, which is where we have to see exactly where you're at. Okay, what's baseline looking like? What's happening in the business right now? What's happening in your days? What's the ROI from the time that you're putting in? Where is your energy going? Where's your time going? What are the outputs, as in, where do you ultimately want to be? What's the vision for the business? What's the vision for your life? What are your goals? What are the kind of things that you want to achieve? What are the milestones? And basically we reverse engineer all that back, and we build it into a complete performance blueprint that we can actually build that framework around it, that systems around. So the framework is the same for everybody else, because you have to have a framework in order for you to get predictable results. But it's the inputs into that framework that gets it to work. The inputs, which are different for all of us, that gets it to work. And then after that, it's like, I often think of it as like the toddler is trying to get the square peg in the square hole. It will go in there, but its dexterity isn't informed. And it's like we have to tweak and adjust until they get that square peg goes in there. And then that's where people start to really see the benefits of it. It will fit, but as we're all human, we need to tweak and adapt it slightly to the individual then, even after that point.
I mean, I want to get into the whole idea of creating those systems and the tweaking of things as you do it. But I think there's an important aspect to talk about as well as you building towards this. And it's something that I know you have front and center even on your website, which is the reference to work-life balance. And this has been a bit of a hot topic that I've had over the years with people, because it's a terminology within itself that is sometimes controversial. Let's just say. Yeah. I've posted in the past and said, work-life balance, and I've been, rapped over the knuckles saying there's no such thing. What's your take on that whole idea of work-life balance? Is it just an easy term that really means something, doesn't really mean balance, or what? How do you see it?
So in terms of work-life balance, I think there are seasons in our life as well. So you have this big thing that you want to achieve in the next week or the next month. Yeah, sometimes it's working hard or it's working longer. As long as it's a season, as long as it feeds into the bigger picture, doesn't mean you have to finish at 5 p.m. every single day. There's days where stuff can go off track. There's days where you need to pivot or adjust. So it's looking at the bigger picture of your life vision, and ultimately what do you want to achieve and what do you want things to look like. And it's really building in place processes that allows you to achieve those outcomes, where it's not going to impact on your health or your energy or your family or any of those other things in your life. So it's about taking a holistic look at everything and then designing that future vision of what that would look like, reverse engineering back from that point then. And then it's like, are you working smart? Okay. It's if you have to put in 70 or 80 hours a week every week, and you've been doing that for the last 6 months or the last 5 years or the last 10 years, there's something wrong somewhere. There's something missing somewhere. So definitely it has to be a holistic look at everything in order for you to achieve what you want to achieve without burning the candle or sacrificing your personal time or your family time. And as I was saying, maybe at times there is a season where you need to put in extra hours or extra time, but it has to feed into the bigger picture. So it's all about the bigger picture and where that actually fits into it.
Yeah, I mean it is true what you say in terms of seasonal, different stages of life, right? It's can make a big difference when you're on your own. It's much easier to put more time into work potentially. When as you maybe get married or certainly have children, once children come into the picture, it completely changes your perspective on things, because you do want to spend more time with your child, which means, invariably when they're particularly young, it means you actually have to be home or available at least at certain times of the day, because it's no good coming home at 8 o'clock at night and the child's in bed at 7 o'clock. So, there are lots of those things that come into the picture. So part of it is adapting, I imagine, as well to where you're at in your life and where your business wants and needs to be.
Yeah, it is. Of course, there's statements like that. For example, if you're a startup business, then absolutely it's going to take more time. It's going to take more energy versus a business that's established. So it just depends where you're at. But the core part of it is it has to be, you have to be working as smartly as possible within the realms of, what you want to achieve. I've had people come to me and they could absolutely kill it for, a solid 12-hour day and focus, absolutely maximize their output. And then they're flat as a pancake for 5 days afterwards. So it has to be sustainable as well, what you're doing. You have to be smarter. And it's a bit like we talked about athletes earlier. Yes, we need to sprint, but we need that recovery time as well. So there has to be a delta into the picture. If we're not getting recovery time, guess what? We're not going to be as effective tomorrow. And then we try to outwork that by working longer tomorrow. And then we get less recovery time. And then we get into this vicious loop. So that's something that has to be considered as well.
I hear what you're saying. And I think that the trick, which is the next part of the conversation, is getting your systems in place, right? It's actually, how do you actually make this possible so your business can function? Because the ultimate dream, of course, for most solo business operators is, how do you get it to a point where the business can operate without you, so that you can take that, holiday, or it might just be taking some time off during the week so you don't have to work 5 days a week, whatever it looks like for you. That's the dream. Certainly at an initial point. So how important is it to find those systems? How easy is it to find those systems? Are they, is that something you can coach at a high level, or is that getting into the nitty gritty?
Yeah, look, it's like a game. That's what is it you want to achieve in your life? And everything revolves around systems, like everything, because systems massively reduce the amount of micro decisions we're making. Systems take away a reliance of willpower or discipline or motivation or all these things that are really fleeting things that come and go over time, at the ebb and the flow. So what is it you want to achieve? For me, say, in my personal life, I try to avoid sweets and sugar, stuff like that, Monday to Friday. And if I didn't have a system in place for that, I'd always be making micro decisions. Will I have it now? Will I have it later? How much of it will I have? And then I'll cave in because it's sheer decision fatigue. So instead, my system is, I don't have it in the house Monday to Friday. My only decision is when I buy it, when I go to the shop the weekend. So that's reduced hundreds of micro decisions across my week down to one decision. Okay, that's a system. So it really is, what are you looking to achieve? Again, start with the end in mind and reverse engineer back from that. Okay, to see, in order for me to achieve this, what systems do I need to actually build around me to enable me to do the thing that I need to do? So it could be personal related systems, it could be systems for business, but everything comes down to systems. If you want to achieve a predictable outcome, then you have to create a system around you that enables you to do that.
Yeah, it's easy to talk about. It's difficult to implement, isn't it? I mean, those little things that can make a difference, like you said, trying to identify those things that derail you. I know I've just been doing that myself in the last couple of days, and sort of came to this, realization I knew was always there, that I was being dictated to by my phone, and that I needed to turn the notifications off on my phone, like, permanently. And it actually takes a little bit of getting used to when you're making some of those sorts of changes, because I had this feeling when I did go and check my messages, go, oh my goodness, I had all these text messages and this message on WhatsApp and I didn't respond to it straight away. And then I realized, no, I actually had some quiet time during the day to get a few things done because I wasn't doing that. And it's very, so those little things, like you say, knowing that you get a sugar rush and you shouldn't have the sugar during the week, so you wait till the weekend. Like, there's two components to this, really. There's the recognizing it in the first place, or probably three: recognizing it, wanting to do something about it, and then doing something that is actually going to meaningfully make those changes to improve those systems, because that third part is hard.
Yeah, of course. And we have to almost save ourselves from ourselves. We have to almost eliminate the possibility for not doing the thing. It's like, in manufacturing plants, they've called the jigs or the fixtures. to create, and duplicate interchangeable parts, at scale. So they don't have to set up or cut or cast a new part every single time. So that massively reduces the amount of areas where things could go wrong here. And it's the same with herself. Like, I had a woman recently, and she was devil for hopping on Instagram in bed at 11 o'clock at night, and she's still scrolling through videos at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So instead of trying to motivate her or tell her to have more discipline around it, like we just set up a system that would eliminate the possibility for that. So there's settings of the phone that would time her out basically after 15 minutes. She could do it for 15 minutes. That's her little reward at the end of the day. Then she got timed out, and then she can't go back on it again till the next day. So it's eliminating the possibility for it not happening. If there's little friction points to it, it's reducing those friction points to make it easier for it to happen. And it's again, having a process that means either completely unlikely or for it not to happen, or you've eliminated the possibility for it not happening.
I mean, how easy is it for people to recognize what it is that they need to be tweaking, if that's the right terminology, to be able to improve their performance? How easy? I mean, it's like I had the realization, but probably prompted by someone else with regards to the phone. How do you identify what other things? I mean, the phone is kind of an obvious starting point because I'm sure it does impact a lot of people, but there are less obvious things. And so how do you find that within people and help them recognize it, as that first step?
So yeah, that's a great question. It really comes down to, measuring and managing. Like, you can't manage what you can't measure. So what we do is we literally look at everything that's happening in their days and weeks. Okay, I have an AI tool that I built to actually track what they do, where their time goes, where their energy goes, where their focus goes, and that actually is able to measure that. So we can actually see, well, what is happening in their days, where is their time going, what's the ROI from the kind of things they're working on, what are the kind of things that's pulling them off track or distracting them or interrupting them. So we can build out a full picture at the very start. And when we have that picture in front of us and we sit down, without me even saying anything, they can almost pinpoint and get that aha moment to say, actually, I didn't even realize I was doing as much of that, or didn't even realize I wasn't doing enough of that. It's really getting the data at the very start to say, okay, this is actually what's happening in real terms. It's not based on what I think. Or looking back at the weekend and kind of wondering, Jesus, what did I do, or where did I go off track? It's in real time actually measuring this stuff, so that over a period of time we can build up a full picture. And then when we have that level of data, then it's clear. Then these are the systems we need to build around you in order to enable you to achieve the end outcome you're after.
Yeah, I mean, those systems are so important. Does that scare people, being able to systemize it? How easy is it? I mean, there's so many tools out there now in terms of automations and various things like that can help with systems. What is the right place to start when building it, and what do systems in real terms look like?
Like, I had a person that come to me recently, and she was like, I have this, I'm going to do this AI course, and it's going to train me how to do all these, utilize these 30 AI tools. It's going to be great. What do you think? Should I do it? And I was like, well, what's the outcome you're after? And she was like, well, I'll get to use all these 30 AI tools, but I know, but what's the outcome you're after ultimately when you use these tools? And she didn't know. So I was like, you start with the end in mind and you reverse back from that point to say, actually, what do I need? Okay, do I need all these 30 AI tools, or do I need just one or two tools to make my life easier? Okay, do I need all these things, or do I need just a couple of things? So it's like, what's the outcome you're after, and reverse engineer back from that. Okay, for example, if you want to, cut back on working hours in your business, or just, from an efficiency point of view, then it's like, okay, that's the endpoint. You're working at this level baseline. Okay, this is what you want to get down to. Then we reverse engineer back from that point. For example, somebody wants to increase turnover in their business by, let's just say, 20%. Okay, we start with the end in mind, reverse engineer back from that. What do we need to do? Well, we have to bring in a new client, 12 new clients. Okay, step back again. What do we need to do? Well, we probably need to bring in one new client, say, every month. Okay, back again, step back. What do we need to do? Well, we need to probably bring in about 4 new leads a week. Okay, in order for you to bring in 4 new leads a week, what do you need to do that? Well, I'd have to spend about 2 hours on marketing. Okay, in order for you to spend 2 hours on marketing, what do you need to do? Well, what's the best thing to do here? Well, that's where the systems come in. Then do we need a VA that we can delegate that will actually do our LinkedIn outreach or our social media posts? Do we need to carve out in your schedule a 2-hour block for you to go through a certain criteria to actually, to bring in those 4 new leads? So it all starts with the end in mind. We reverse back from that, and then from that, then becomes a lot clearer what you need to build around you, systemize, in order to enable you to achieve the payment then at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean it's a great piece of advice to start at what you want to achieve, because you can get trapped in systems and building systems for system's sake, and then micro managing those systems. I know I even experienced it recently where I had someone who had tried to build a system for part of the business, and there was actually, I realized that after it was implemented, there's more effort in trying to fill in the steps of the system than there is in actually doing it. And so the system we just went too minutiae in detail. And so you ended up going, well, I have to tick this, and this. And I thought, no, I don't just lump some things together and do that. And I think that's an important part of it in getting the system right, is that, as you say, it's focused on the end outcome. So the best way to achieve that without necessarily always having to go into the minutiae of detail.
Yeah, it is, of course. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Simple is better. Like that example I gave you with sweets and sugar wasn't this big complicated thing. It's just, well, they're not in the house. Okay, I don't have them in the house. That's the rule. And then it's much easier to get one decision right and have one rule than to have, get 100 decisions right. Simple is much better. Comes to stuff 100%.
So let me put you on the spot a little bit. Give me a couple of, you pick the number. Give us a few tips for people who are looking to build systems for themselves in the business. What are some things that they need to, how to identify what systems they should be putting in place and what they need to do?
So, look at it's the, again, kind of going back to it. Okay, what is it you want to achieve? How would you like your days to run? Because I get people and they're like, yeah, but this is the way it is right now. What about if this happens or that happens, or what about if we don't hit this target? And like, don't worry about the way it is right now.
Yep. I just lost you there for a minute. Yeah, I just lost you there for a minute with your internet connection is now saying it's good. So do you mind just taking that back and answering that question again about just from the top about some of those tips?
Yeah, 100%. So again, it's like, how would you like things to be? How would you like things to run in your day? Like the person that was talking to me recently, and we were talking about this, her certain goals and targets, and I was saying, look, they're not specific enough. You don't have figures, you don't have end dates, you don't have any of that kind of stuff. And like, if you just want to make more money, well, like, what does that mean? That could mean an extra $5 in your pocket. It could mean an extra $1 million at the end of the year. What is it you actually want? And she was saying, yeah, but what if, I lose a client and I'm not hitting it, and that demotivate me? Well, I'm like, don't worry about all the things that could go wrong. Think about the way you want it to be. Okay. Think what you want to achieve, okay? And then it's like, well, what do I need to do in order for me to get there? Okay, well, I can say, well, this is the ideal outcome. This is what's happening right now in my days. How do I get there faster? Okay, so I'm working long hours. I'm spending too long doing, okay, we use the marketing example there. I'm spending 3 hours per week doing marketing. Okay, well, fine. Let's what one system we could do is, one thing I do is build a playbook. So very simply, you have a Loom video. You take the Loom video from you doing the task. So it's not actually taking the extra time. And then you upload that link to ChatGPT. You ask ChatGPT to act as an AI delegation expert, and you get ChatGPT to actually build you out a step-by-step playbook based on this video, based on success criteria, what success looks like, common mistakes to avoid, and a full step-by-step. Then we take these playbooks, we hand them over to VAs on like Fiverr.com or Upwork, and then we can delegate the thing that you need to do in order for you to achieve the outcome. So you can spend even more time in something that has a bigger ROI for you to actually achieve the end outcome you're after. It's all about getting people down into their zone of genius, because if they get the people down into that zone of genius, things only they can do as leaders, as business people, then ultimately that they're going to achieve those goals much faster. Okay. So what else could like, I had another guy that came to me as a business owner just lately. He's an engineering company in Dublin, and he had like this big triage process for QA and documents. Okay. So a team would have to QA the document and make sure there's no spelling mistakes and everything is just right. And then it would come to him for a second triage. So he was spending like probably the guts of a day every week just triaging documents as a business owner, an admin type task. So what we done is we built out a custom GPT. Okay, so we built a custom AI tool that will actually do the triaging for him. Okay, so that enabled him to get the guts of a day per week back to get on the business now, again, in his zone of genius, progressing towards the goals. So it's like, what is it you want? How would you like things to run? Okay, how would you like things to be? And then it's like, what are the things we need to do in order for me to get there? Okay. And it's thinking really outside the box as well. Okay. It's like, if you had to, take this task off your plate, how could you do it? Sometimes we think we have to do X and we have to do Y, but there's often a much better way for it. Now, the guy I was working with, there lately, he's a 4-hour invoicing process to do every single week. And I was like, well, okay, that's again not value add for him, as in this is something that somebody else could do. Or what we done was we completely automated the task in about 15 minutes. So we mapped out the current workflow, we mapped out the future ideal workflow, used the AI to build the playbook, handed it over again to somebody on Fiverr.com or Upwork or one of these outsourcing sites. And then when in 3 days, you had that process completely, when I say completely, it was about 95% of the way automated. So again, we're getting him further down to that zone of genius so he can spend his time on the things only he needs to do as part of the business.
You know, the challenge with all of that for small business particularly is spending money. You know, that's the hard part, isn't it? It's like, it's easy to say, great, we should have a VA that comes in and do X, Y, Z, or we should have another person that does this.
Yeah.
And sometimes that money is easy and makes sense. And I've often used this example and say, look, the first hire I had in business was a bookkeeper. I loathed doing invoicing. I loathed doing the books. I take too long to do it and dreaded it every month when I was doing it. The best money I ever spend, and every month with my bookkeeper, and shout out to Anna, who I know listens regularly, lifesaver. But it is a lot harder when you've got someone who wants to begin regularly to do those things, because it is about how do you equate spending the money versus saving time versus being able to bring in more clients, do more work, so that you can pay those bills.
Yeah, it has to be ROI led. So again, if it's ROI led, well, it's like, you go to a bank machine, and yes, you have to put, a dollar into the bank machine. But if your bank machine is going to give you back $2, $5 or $10 back, then you put that dollar in all day long, wouldn't you? But that's the same way in business. It has to be ROI led. And when you can get down to the nitty gritty and see, is this actually ROI led? Is there an ROI here? Then then it makes sense to do the thing. So again, it's not, a lot of people throw mud against the wall and hope something sticks. It's specific and pinpointed. It's all ROI led. And by the way, hiring is not the first step. I always make AI your first hire. Okay, can we automate it? Can we delegate it? Can we systemize it? So that again, it's one and done. So you don't have to hire somebody and now they're doing the repeatable thing that potentially could have been automated in the first place. Can we actually automate this process or massively reduce the friction in the process? Okay, so we can streamline it. So we make AI our first hire. Then we think, do we need somebody? And again, I wouldn't typically recommend hiring somebody straight off the back. It's okay, let's bring somebody in and outsource this task to like a CA, where it's like maybe paid hourly, or based on a block of time, as opposed to now if someone working full time on us with pressure on us to pay them, don't not keep working in front of them. What you can do is incrementally increase that then over time. So it's like, what I always do is generate wins. Generate wins, you can see, okay, the light bulbs go off and say, okay, if they can do this, what else could they do? That's the same with AI. Generate wins around all that, so you can see the return on your investment of time, because that gets people to buy in. And it's like, if you can do that, geez, what else could be? If our VA can do that now, and it's just working really well for us, what else could they do? And then the light bulb start goes off, and then they don't mind. So it's ROI led, and it's getting those quick wins at the start, so then people really buy in to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
There's so many things that we could talk about here, and there's just not much time left. And I just wanted to get in a couple of things before we finish up. It'd be remiss of me not to mention the book you participated as part of, Rise Above. Tell me a little bit about that and what people can expect from it. And of course, preface it by saying we will make sure we include some details in the show notes so people will be able to access it. So tell us a little bit about Rise Above.
Yeah, it's so I was lucky enough to co-author with Les Brown, myself, and 9 other authors. We all have our own individual chapter in the book, and it's really a series of inspiring stories of people's journeys. They, like myself, had faced, really, really challenging and difficult situations, and how we overcame it in order to achieve the kind of things that we went on to do in our lives, and our journey almost to this point. So it's really, I often describe it, it's a bit like, it's based on the concept, if you ever read Chicken Stick for the Soul. It's based on that kind of concept, where our whole goal was just to inspire people that maybe gone through a tough time, a difficult time, and knowing that, look, there is light. Keep moving forward. And the times where I felt like, look, this isn't working out, I didn't know where to turn or where to go, because like I couldn't find answers and solutions. But I always seen then in life that if you just stay consistent with it long enough, you'll get there. And that was my message in the book. And I know the other co-authors were the same. If you just stay consistent long enough, you'll get there. Okay. Yeah, like Les Brown has some great catchphrases, and he is the first chapter in the book. And he says, look, if you can look up, you can get up. And it seems difficult, but you can get up and you can move past whatever those challenges are now. And when you do that, you just keep taking steps forward. No matter how small those steps, you're going to get there. You're going to get whatever it is that you want to achieve. There'll be humps and there'll be bumps and there'll be ups and downs, and especially in business, there's that's part of the course. But if you stay consistent, whatever it is you want, you will get there. So that's really what the book is about.
Fantastic. Said we will make details of it available in the show notes so people can get a hold of that. And just before we wrap up, the question I always like to ask my guests is, what's the aha moment that people have when they come to work with you that you wish more people knew they were going to have?
Yeah, I think it's we can normalize the way things are right now, and we can think that this is almost just the way it is. Like this, it's like I often think, the weather in Ireland. I'm like, when it's day after day after day after rain, we almost feel like, Jesus, there's never going to be a sunny day. And then when the good weather comes and it's day after sun, you feel this is going to go on forever. And it can be the same in our life and in our business as well. But the big thing is to get people those quick wins at an early stage, so they can say, actually, it doesn't have to be like this. I don't have to put in 80 hours a week. I don't have to, I don't have to feel stress all the time during my days. It's to get people a quick wins, so they can almost say, well, actually, there is a better way. For example, there was one woman I worked with recently, and just one very, very simple thing. We bookended her day. We had like a little 15-minute shutdown routine at the end of our day where it was like, this is your finished time. This is the time you, because in business, obviously, we're not on a 9 to 5. It's like you can work all the hours, you can work none of the hours. That one thing pulled her evenings and her weekends back for her because work expands to fill the time available. Okay. And when she seen that, it was like light bulb moment. Okay, what else can I do? And then she was all in. Okay. So it's like, what is the one thing you can do that can make the biggest difference? Getting people that one went straight away. They can say, actually, you know what? There is a better way. And it doesn't have to be like that. Because I can say it and you can hear others say it. But when you get those wins at an early stage, then that's the moment where they're all in.
Fantastic. I love so much of the information that you've given today. It's such a not only a unique perspective in so many great stories, and I think there's so much for people to learn from it. So I really thank you for being a part of the program, and it's lovely to speak to someone on the other side of the world. Fantastic accent, we love it over here. So thank you so much for being part of the Biz Bites for Thought Leaders podcast.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to everyone listening in, don't forget, of course, to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We look forward to your company next time on Biz Bites for Thought Leaders. Hey, thanks for listening to Biz Bites. We hope you enjoyed the program. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Biz Bites is proudly brought to you by Podcasts Done For You, the service where we will deliver a podcast for you and expose your brilliance to the world. Contact us today for more information. Details in the show notes. We look forward to your company next time on Biz Bites.